Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. It's our Israelite Advanced Bible Study night, Tuesday, the 5th of November, 2024. Okay, we'll be reading out of the book of Jasher, breaking down chapters, excuse me, breaking down chapters 2 and 3. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can examine and look at and connect the dots. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. Okay. And our hours of operation for Prophets of Awakening is Tuesday nights and Wednesday night 7 to 9 Central Time PM, and then we have our Shabbat classes on Sabbath 1 in the morning from 10 to 12 a.m. Then we come back and we close the Shabbat out from 6 to 7 in the evening, Central Time. Okay. So we have our cash app at the bottom of the screen for anyone that wants to feel the need to support the channel. That'd be greatly appreciated. Okay. For those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament. We don't subscribe to Jesus the Christ, Yahweh Shai, Paul, 4 Gospels. We don't subscribe to that. Okay, that's for the Gentiles, something that they created. Okay, you can go to the YouTube, or we can go to Shalom and welcome to this channel, and welcome to our Israelite Advanced Bible Study. Okay, we're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, a prayer, Psalms. We have some current events, need to know information, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A, and then we go into our lesson, which is dealing with the books of Jasher, and we'll be reading chapters 2 and 3, and doing a breakdown on it. Okay. This moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts, and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Okay. Oh Lord, we come before thee at this day, and we thankful for the knowledge and the understanding that you have given us up until this point. And we seek thy face, that you shower us with peace and enlightenment, and that you and a sense of togetherness. Oh Lord, we see thy hand in the affairs of the world, and we know and understand that what you have spoken in the past will surely come to pass. Turn not thy face from us, but hearken unto this plea, O Lord. Hearken and do. Peace be unto you. Okay. So with that being said, in the Psalms, okay. Okay. I'll read Psalm 67. It's let all the people praise thee. God, be merciful unto us and bless us, and cause his face to shine upon us. Selah, that thy way may be known upon the earth, thy saving help among all nations. Let the people praise thee, O God, and let all the people praise thee. O let thy nations be glad and sing for joy, for thou shalt judge the people righteously and govern the nations upon the earth. Selah, and let the people praise thee, O God, and let all the people praise thee. Then shall the earth yield her increase, and God, even our own God, will bless us. God shall bless us, and the ends of the earth shall fear him. So he says right here, when you read this in the right context, he's saying the psalmist is telling you to praise the Lord, right? Constantly praise him, and he says when you do, verse 6 says that Then shall the earth yield her increase. So we know fruit from the ground. And God, even our own God, shall bless us. God shall bless us, and all the ends of the earth shall fear him. So when we turn to him, acknowledge him, praise him, then he blesses us in return. Cause the earth to bless us. He blesses and he causes the earth to bless us. Anybody have any comments on that? Okay. So with that being said, we're gonna go to some current events. Okay. Let's get it. We know this election day.
All right, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So today we have a very interesting video because we are now hearing that voting machines are starting to go down. Yeah, interesting. Well, we need to get to the bottom of this. What is going on? How many people are impacted, and what will this do for voting for today, November 5th? So I'm going to break all that down in just a moment, but all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead. Hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So here we go. So this article from CNN Politics says voting nationwide has been mostly orderly despite non-credible bomb threats from Russian origin. Okay, well, that's concerning. That's after we've already heard from the FBI and Homeland Security that, yes, threats, especially today, are going to be somewhat heightened. But here's where things get interesting. This article right here from the New York Post says that deep red Pennsylvania County extends voting by 2 hours after widespread ballot problems cause long lines and confusion. Okay, so we are already somewhat on high alert that it doesn't matter which party wins, who's the president, somebody's going to contest it. That's what we've been hearing over the past 24 hours. This is one of the reasons why the Washington State Governor, Jay Inslee, has decided to have the National Guard on standby. Okay, interesting. But guess what? It has to do with Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. And if you watched the video that I did this morning, you probably saw it, that I said Pennsylvania was going to be the one state that both people had to win to get to 270 votes. Well, it's starting pretty early. Now, let's read a little bit of this article because, again, this is what many people were predicting. I know a lot of people in the comments and sending emails to me were saying, hey, I called this. I called this from the beginning. Well, let's read it. It says right here, voters in a deep red Pennsylvania county will get 2 extra hours to vote on election day after widespread problems with voting machines cause confusion and long lines. It says the issues with scanning ballots in Cambria County threaten to disenfranchise voters in the critical swing state, according to local election officials. Yes, this is a critical swing state. The person that wins Pennsylvania will likely be the next president of the United States. Okay, let's keep reading. It says the issue with scanning ballots in Cambria County threatened to I actually read that one. Problems were also reported with tabulation machines in Bedford County. It says authorities reassured voters that their ballots will be counted despite the malfunctions. Now, let's get to this, get to some of the numbers. It says former President Donald Trump won the counties with 68% and 83% of the vote 4 years ago, with 68 and 83% of the vote, respectively. Okay. This person says, the Cambria County Board of Elections learned early this morning that a software malfunction in the county's electronic voting system has prevented voters from scanning their ballots. This should not discourage voters from voting at their voting precincts. The board has filed a court order extending the time to vote within Cambria County. Now, here's what I think is interesting. I was getting reports this morning where people were saying that they were going in trying to vote, but there was issues with the voting machines, and it wasn't in Pennsylvania. I can't remember which state it was. But anyway, they were saying that they were trying to select former President Donald Trump, but they couldn't pick him. They could not pick him. And then the people at the polling location said, well, don't worry, just come back in a couple hours. Just come back. You'll be able to vote. And the people were like, I'm on my lunch break. I can't just come back in a couple hours. Now, here's the thing that you need to keep in mind. All these things are happening. Okay, again, this is the system. It goes down, and there's nothing to be too concerned with. But the concerning part is where. We haven't heard of many other stories in other states where their voting machines are going down. Okay, that's the big worry. Is right now it's all happening in Pennsylvania, in a deep red county in Pennsylvania. So I don't know who's going to win the upcoming election. Okay, I can't tell the future. Okay, but what I can tell you, based off what experts are already saying, is that this election will be contested. We don't know who's going to win it. We don't know who's going to contest it. But even if former President Donald Trump wins, Democrats will contest the election. If Democrats win, Republicans will contest the election. That is how close this election is going to be. That's how big it's going to be. So just keep in mind that even though we may have somebody called as the next president, well, there may be some concerns around that. So many experts say and are predicting that even though we'll have somebody as the president, concern is that's when protests are going to happen. That's when we are going to see some additional threats, not just from people here in the United States, but from other countries as well. So I wish I could give you some better news. Today, I wasn't planning on talking about the election on all videos, but chances are that's what I'm going to do. Now, here's the one thing I do want to say, though. Okay, there's a lot of people that are still voting. And I talked about this morning, that we don't know if we're going to have if a president's going to be called later on tonight. Chances are not going to happen unless it's a blowout. And if it's a blowout, they are saying it would likely be a blowout for former President Donald Trump. If it's a blowout for President Donald Trump, then Democrats would have no other choice than to contest it, because as they believe, there's no way everybody would vote for him after what has gone on over the past 4+ years. So we're going to see what happens now.
Okay. Any comments on that? Okay. No comments. Yeah, so we'll see tomorrow. Definitely going to be something behind it, but we'll see tomorrow. Okay.
Or is that hyperbole? Let's ask Colonel Douglas Macgregor, who's been tracking and watching what has been unfolding in the Middle East, of course, in the wake of this leaked documents scandal. And is Israel about to attack Iran? What does it mean for the 57,000 American soldiers who are in the Middle East right now? And all of this happening right before Election Day. Colonel, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well.
So when I say, we're on the precipice of World War III, I mean, are we being hyperbolic here, or are we already there? And what do you think that this means ahead of the election?
Well, we're not there, but I don't think you're being hyperbolic. We have to consider the following points. If you look at the current state of affairs on the ground in the Middle East, the Israelis are following the Greater Israel Plan, which has been on the shelf for many, many years. This Greater Israel Plan incorporates at least half of Lebanon die one way or the other. And this is what we in London are strongly supporting. However, the Israelis are not winning per se on the battlefield. In other words, they're taking losses in southern Lebanon that are quite heavy. They continue to take losses down in Gaza whenever they go in on the ground. They realize that they cannot continue on this path without some sort of dramatic victory elsewhere, and the elsewhere, frankly, is Iran. They've got to attack Iran. Netanyahu knows that. He has no choice. The question is one of timing. And this is what people need to understand. It is in his interest, Netanyahu's and Israel's interest, to start this war with Iran before the election. Now, they currently have done everything in their power, that is Mr. Netanyahu and his agents in the United States, pouring vast sums of money into the Trump campaign to ensure that Trump is elected, because Trump has made it abundantly clear that he will support unconditionally whatever the Israelis want to do, that he backs them. But they can't be entirely sure that once he's elected, he will follow through completely as they would like. At the same time, they have no guarantee and no certainty whatsoever that Kamala Harris will do anything that they want her to do. In fact,
so that's why you started now? That's why you start this war right now?
What?
So that's why they start this war right now?
Yeah, it's got to happen this weekend or next weekend, sometime before the election. Get it underway. Then whoever ultimately wins, even though they're banking heavily on President Trump, they know that they've inherited a war that they just can't walk away from. Now, how does the war, from their standpoint, really get off the ground? They've got to launch crippling strikes against Iran. They're going to do as much damage as they can. Whether or not they'll attack the nuclear facility is open to question. The probability of their attacking the oil facility, I think, is very high. Again, that's another lucrative target. There are many other things to hit, but those are the two most significant from the Israeli standpoint. If they do either or both, the Iranians will respond ultimately with all that they've got, and they've got quite a bit. And as we've already seen, the air missile defenses don't really work all that well. Any of these could be overwhelmed. These two THAAD batteries, terminal high altitude air defense or area defense missiles and radars, are not going to measurably change much, because you are inevitably firing two missiles, sometimes even three, to hit incoming missiles. So you can exhaust whatever is in your magazine quickly. The Iranians, on the other hand, I'm being told, have the capacity to fire 400 missiles and rockets an hour for days. Wow. So you're talking about a very different set of circumstances with Iran. But that's fine with Mr. Netanyahu, because as soon as Israel comes under attack, the plan is for the U.S. air power and missile power to attack Iran. Now, we've got nearly 1,000 fighter jets that are loaded, ready for bear. They'll go in and attack. We've got large numbers of standoff munitions that can be launched from aircraft far away from air defenses, because obviously there is a certain amount of respect for the S-400 and what it could potentially do. The majority of Americans regard whatever happens on 5 November as legitimate. I mean, obviously the expectation, and I think under normal circumstances, President Trump would win. Will he win, though? I don't know. But let's assume he does. Now he said he's going to back the Israelis to the hill. Now, how long does he do this before the financial system takes a bite out of his administration? I mean, it's a very dangerous time. I don't think we can be hyperbolic right now if we're Americans looking at this from our.
Okay. Any comments on that? Okay. Right, so we see what's going on, right? They definitely started the war already, and we're in the middle of election day, so we're gonna see what happens. Like I say, tomorrow. So we got some need to know information right here. You get it. I talked about this before, but so this is like a confirmation. Okay. Prophecy.
entire future of Africa, as it just pledged an incredible $50 billion to developing the continent over the next 3 years. But this shouldn't come as a major surprise, as Chinese enterprises have created an incredible 1.1 million jobs in Africa the past 3 years, while investing in agriculture, manufacturing, and trade logistics. Africa is China's second largest overseas contracting market, and over the past decade, Chinese companies have signed contracts in Africa worth over $700 billion. Simply put, the future of Africa is China, and China's own future is now deeply intertwined with Africa. But earlier this week, China announced...
So, like I said before, right there, the thing with the narrative is, I know since I've been alive, is America is the final beast. But we already see right here, China is coming on the scene.
A new policy.
China coming on the scene, so where's China in Revelation?
It will be a game changer for 33 of the least developed African countries. And to be honest, this is what China does better than any country
Even BRICS.
in the world, providing clear, tangible benefits from cooperation. Moving forward, these 33 nations will enjoy a new zero tariff treatment, which basically means they will have zero tariffs on all products or goods exported to China, giving these smaller developing nations direct access to the most valuable consumer market in the world. The announcement came at this year's Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, where leaders from all 53 African nations journeyed to Beijing to cement the cooperation between Africa and China. Just listen to the powerful opening statement China gave at this year's forum. African countries are experiencing a new awakening, realizing that externally imposed models have not brought stability and prosperity. African nations need to explore development paths that suit their own national conditions and firmly grasp their future and destiny in their own hands. There is one main reason why China is winning in Africa. China respects the individual needs of all 53 African nations and customizes a unique offering for each country focused on win-win solutions. Ironically, this is a stark contrast to how the United States has historically treated Africa. The US has always looked at Africa as a problem to be solved, while China looks at Africa as a continent of opportunity. The myth that modernization equals westernization has been debunked, and this commitment by China to work with African countries as genuine partners and not problems to be dealt with is a breath of fresh air. When the United States hosted the similar US-Africa Leaders Summit in 2022, African leaders were met with frustration, disappointment, and distrust, and told reporters they heard many big American promises, starting with President Barack Obama in 2014, but almost nothing has come to pass. Of course, it didn't help that the US hosted the summit while it was actively sanctioning several African nations, harming their development and interfering with their sovereignty. It's been nearly 2 years since the US-Africa Summit, and it's no surprise what the conference has yielded for Africa. More lectures, more speeches, and almost zero tangible benefits to the development of the continent. The US government was only interested in hosting an Africa Summit to counter the rise of China. The audacity of Americans' actions is perfectly summed up in this clip.
The President of the US came to Zambia, landed at a Chinese-built airport in Zambia, moved on a Chinese-built road in Zambia. The venue of this summit was actually a gift to Zambia by the Chinese government. And the key agenda of this summit was to curb Africa's cooperation with China.
Ironically, this lecture was given by presidential hopeful Kamala Harris, showing there will most certainly be no significant change on the US policy towards Africa if she wins this November. But China's collaborative approach fosters genuine cooperation, leading to win-win agreements that benefit all nations. By addressing each country's priorities and challenges, China helps facilitate development while strengthening bilateral ties, ensuring that both parties achieve mutual growth and prosperity. It's as simple as that. No military bases involved, no lecturing, and no interference with sovereignty. In fact, the respect from China is reflected down to the scheduling of the forum. Every 3 years, the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation rotates between Beijing and an African city. China gives tremendous face to these smaller developing nations by personally visiting the continent to focus on economic cooperation, diplomacy, peace, and cultural exchange. Alternating between Africa and China shows the level operating field and the respect between the two regions. In contrast, the US does not have a recurring forum, but rather hosts summits when their interests in Africa are being threatened, and only in Washington, D.C.
You want us to get filthy rich. I'm like blown away. So it does work. No one really.
This week's African summit in Beijing has now set the stage for China's massive expansion in Africa, which honestly has been exploding in growth the past few years. China-Africa trade reached a record high of $282 billion in 2023, and China has been Africa's largest trading partner for 15 consecutive years. But this new $50 billion investment over the next 3 years into Africa is forecasted to create an additional 1 million jobs in Africa, working on infrastructure projects, green energy, and trade expansion in countries across the continent. Kenya secured 2 billion yuan to finance the construction of rural roads that will serve 70% of the nation's population. Part of Beijing's revised Belt and Road Initiative is to focus on what the Chinese government calls small and beautiful projects. Kenya's president went on to state, Kenya and China have excellent and cordial diplomatic relations. These ties have been mutually beneficial to our two countries, phenomenally transforming Kenya's railway, road, and port infrastructure, and deepening people-to-people exchanges. In East Africa, China, Tanzania, and Zambia have signed an agreement to rehabilitate a decades-old railway. In addition, China has also pledged to support industrial upgrades in Zimbabwe and develop its mineral processing capabilities, as the country is a key producer of lithium, an essential material for electric vehicles. In a meeting with Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, she said that China would continue to promote the development of infrastructure and encourage cooperation in areas such as the digital economy and new energy. In a clear jab to U.S.-African policy, the two leaders released a joint statement stating that human rights issues, including the right to development, are quote, the common cause of all mankind, and they oppose the politicization of human rights issues and interference in internal affairs of other countries under the pretext of human rights. This statement encapsulates Africa's movement towards Chinese policies over America's. China is not telling these leaders how to run their countries or interfering with local politics. China is once again solely focused on trade and development and working towards mutual cooperation. In addition to the billions of dollars in investment pledged to Africa in the next 3 years, Xi took another massive step by ending all tariffs for 33 African countries. Once again, this is a stark contrast to U.S. foreign policy, which has significantly increased its use of tariffs in recent years. In fact, Joe Biden became the first president to pass over 6,000 new sanctions in a 2-year span, as the U.S. has tried to sanction China's access to the most advanced microchips. But here is the cold hard truth about U.S. sanctions. They've completely backfired. Sanctions have only forced China to innovate and become stronger, and now some of America's most important tech companies, most notably Intel, are suffering. Intel is the worst performing stock in the S&P 500 this year, as the company has been cut off from its most valuable source of profit. That, of course, is the Chinese market. But here is where things get very interesting, as China is now importing some of its most valuable products into Africa. In 2023, China's exports of new energy vehicles and lithium batteries grew by 291% and 109% respectively. China is the world leader in these two sectors, and of course relies on the resources and minerals of African mines to dominate these two industries. While China has been honest about its desire for Africa's resources from the start, the difference from the West is the win-win cooperation for mutual development instead of a one-sided approach. I know it might be hard for many Westerners to believe in a country acting in motivation outside of material gain, but there is a historic and ideological precedent in China to support this. Many schools, hospitals, and infrastructure projects in Africa have been gifted by China purely by goodwill. Keep in mind, only 50 years ago, China was one of the poorest countries on earth. Since then, they have raised nearly 1 billion people out of poverty. This transition is within living memory of a majority of Chinese people and has translated into their foreign policy and belief that it is their duty to share that growth with the developing world.
Okay. Any comments on that? Anybody?
Shalom.
Okay.
Being with the recent things that's happening, like India, they're joining with Africa, and China's joining with India. Now, those two countries, they have weapons. Africa does not. Africa has a lot of sources, things that they want. Now, as far as China, again, they're buying up all of the coast for docking for the shore. They're adding, like, we can build 200 homes within 2 months or something like that. They're showing all this. To me, is you can get more flies with honey. Be nice to them. Don't start anything. They're putting out so much money into Africa and saying that they don't have to pay them back, but that's a whole bunch of, it's like, we're loaning you this here. Oh, don't worry about it. When it's come to pay in, it's like they're setting, to me, they're setting all these little traps around in Africa. We're gonna have you. But again, as China has grown because of things they have been doing, he hasn't said anything about how they gained so much within this time period and their strategy of getting things done. He didn't put that out. But to me, it looks like they're drawing them in, being very nice to them.
Okay, yeah, yeah. When you look at it, like I was saying, when you look at supposedly they say Revelations supposed to be the word of God, right? But it's not adding up with what actually we see happening. But what China doing is adding up with what we see happening, because it says that uh, iron, the four beasts was the iron couldn't mix with clay, and nobody seems to even know that. But the clay is the Israelites. They came from Adam. Adam was made from clay, from the ground, and so, and the iron is the Gentile nation. So he said that they was gonna never mix, right? And so we see in these last days right now, it's time for them to uh, go back and fix what they did, but they don't. They chose not to. They're not trying to give us no reparations. They ain't trying to do nothing. So when you understand who Israel is, you can see it ain't adding up. But China is coming in Genesis, in Isaiah chapter 60. You can see it. You can see the nation, the Israelites, which are over there in Negro land, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. They rising, but long dealing with America, there ain't nothing happening. They ain't rising. So we can see there's scripture some wrong. Scripture's been tampered with. If you go along with what they're telling you in New Testament and JC and the Revelations, it ain't adding up. Like I said, it's only four beasts. I mean, they done told us. I know that me coming up in the church, Baptist church, and in school, that the four beasts. America was the four beasts. America was the beast at the end and all this, and they was gonna, the mark of the beast and all that was coming through America and all that, but it ain't happening. It's something totally different, because first of all, the people that's over there in the land of Israel, they're not the Israelites, and the whole end times is surrounding the true Israelites, and them rising and them going back and being restored to their land. So it can't be tied to this harlot that's over there is tied to the book of Revelation, not the true Israelites. Okay.
Shalom.
Anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, because being that we got to one realize that Gog and Magog is Russia and China, and by that, like in Zechariah 14, it speaks, and 13, it speaks on how the unclean spirits of the land. So even though right now we're seeing how China is doing and Russia, when it says Gog and Magog, they're joining BRICS, so they're together. So I'm just not clear about how China, Russia, they're doing when the Lord of Hosts does not approve of them.
Did he approve of Nebuchadnezzar?
No, but he used Nebuchadnezzar,
He
and also,
using
and
he
so
using him.
Yes, sir. So while he's using China in Russia, do we
Right.
fall that prey or to that vision that they're going to be the ones who are the good ones and they're doing the bid for this? How this works out, because they're no closer to the Israelites, or they're going to be the ones at like Jacob's trouble. They're going to be our footsteps, going to be at our feet. Or how is that going to work out? I mean,
Yeah, Jacob trouble started back. If you've been around Prophets of Awakening, uh, in 143 BC when Antiochus came, because when you understand the four beasts, Daniel said was a reason why you're only dealing with Nebuchadnezzar, the Medes and Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans. It was other powerful nations before that. The only reason that we dealing with the four beasts is that's when Israel became a nation. When Israel came out of Egypt, and then that's when they became a nation. And so that's why that's the four beasts we dealing with. So Israel was done away with. It says in Daniel that the Lord of hosts in the nation came to a full. He cut the nation of Israel off from being the ruling nation over all the world. So when he cut them off, that's when the tribulation started. When they fled into Africa in 143 BC, that's when the tribulation started. What we're looking at now is the end of the tribulation. Ain't no tribulation coming. We at the end of the tribulation. Like I tell so many people, what's gonna happen in the tribulation that's worse than the transatlantic slave trade and the Arab slave trade? The tribulation started way back in 143 BC when he cut them off from being a nation. What we're looking at now is he said the same God, it was me that scattered you, and it's gonna be me that regather you. So he scattered them back in 143 BC. And so now what we're witnessing is him regathering us. Not the people that's over there now, them ain't no Israelites. So all that over there in Revelation and the New Testament has nothing to do with the story. Because them ain't the real people. They're actually the harlot. So when you look at how he said he changed not, Cyrus was a wicked man, but look what he did. Cyrus uh, called Zerubbabel and Jasher and all them and gave them gold and silver and all that to go back to their land. It ain't no different than what we're looking at now, what we see China doing. And once they accomplished what he wanted them to do, he got rid of them because he could do that. It was nothing nobody else done. Was nothing no man done. He done it.
shalom. So the
Right.
current we are under is lifting, but
Yeah.
but
That's what we
as we are, we have to be in we'll say, to be in the know of the knowledge, to be woke up to him and
right.
to what he can do and what he has to go do. And he's gathering us. So it's not just one corner. All the corners have to be gathered.
Right. He's drawing us.
Yes, sir.
He's drawing the righteous seed.
Yes, sir.
So, like I said, we see over and over how you understand what's getting ready to happen is understand what already happened. So he drawed them. He heard them, their cries in Egypt, and he drawed them and sent Moses, and then they brought him out. All of them wasn't right. He had to kill off a bunch of them. So whatever he done then, he got to do now. We see the same thing right now. We see all the drama, like you see all these Hebrew Christians. that's dealing with JC, idle. They can't see. I mean, they under the assumption that they have a zeal of the Lord, but you embracing an idol. You building, you doing what the Gentile done. You building a religion off an idol, and they can't see it. So yeah, so it's no different than what he done in the past that we see happening now. He used other kings to bless us. We see he used the Pharaoh to bless Abraham. That's how Abraham became rich. So it's nothing new to say. He using the Gentile, which is actually everything they got is ours. It was he caused us to fall and they received it. So all he's doing now is he using them to bring back what was ours. That's all we're dealing with, because gold don't dissolve. A lot of the gold that we're dealing with today, those nations back in the day was dealing with the same gold. It's just been melted down and refined and different labels put on and all that, but it's the same gold. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else got anything on that? Okay, so we'll open it up for some Q&A. Anybody have any questions or comments about anything that they came across? They heard on this channel, when doing our classes or watching videos? Got anything they want to bring up? Okay. Anybody have anything? I'm gonna play this video and then we'll go to Jasher's chapter 2 and 3. It's let me get it. Okay.
Now let's shift our focus to the war in Ukraine. Russian forces have captured a city in eastern Ukraine, and this is a very significant capture. It leads them to a major war objective, the coal mining city of Pokrovsk that powers Ukraine's steel manufacturing industry. Russia wants to cripple it, and that is why it is targeting Pokrovsk. Obviously, Ukraine's Western backers are worried about all of this. They've given Kiev weapons, but also imposed restrictions. Now they're talking about lifting some of those restrictions so that Zelensky can use their weapons to attack Russia and not just defend Ukraine. He's been waiting for the go-ahead for a long time, but he may have to wait a bit longer because Russia just sent another warning to the West. Moscow's entire nuclear triad took part in a drill, simulating a massive nuclear response. Here's our report.
I greet everyone. We are the 30th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade and the Battalion Doctor of the 6th Company. We have taken the town of Selidov. Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!
Hurrah! Hurrah!
The Russian Defense Ministry released this footage yesterday. It shows their forces celebrating the capture of Selidov. Selidov is a small city in eastern Ukraine. Russia has been trying to capture it for the past few weeks. This is a major blow to Ukraine, because Selidov will likely be used as a staging area for Russia's next battle, the battle for Pokrovsk. The city is crucial for Ukraine's steel industry. A coal mine lies about 10 kilometers west of Pokrovsk. It is Ukraine's only domestic source of coking coal, which is needed to make steel. If the mine falls, Ukraine's domestic steel production may fall to below half the current level, so it would be a setback to Kyiv. That is why Russia is after Pokrovsk. Ukraine is desperately seeking a way to turn the tide. For months now, Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, has been asking the West for more tactical freedom. Ukraine has Western weapons, but it isn't allowed to use them to strike deep into Russian territory. Russia's President Vladimir Putin considers this a red line. He says that Ukraine will need Western help to strike deep into his territory. Putin says this would mean that the West is directly getting involved in the war, and that would justify Russia's use of nuclear weapons. Russia has made nuclear threats before, but it has never acted on them. So maybe the West thought it was a bluff. The US recently said it would not impose any new limits on the use of American weapons. Their justification was that Russia was escalating the war by bringing in North Korean troops. The West says that thousands of North Korean troops are already in Russia. They are reportedly making their way to the front line. The West wants to use this as an excuse to loosen the reins and let Ukraine fire missiles deep into Russian territory. This would be a direct challenge to the Russian president. To show that he means business, Putin did this.
Good afternoon. Today we are conducting another exercise of strategic deterrence forces. We will work out the actions of officials in controlling the use of nuclear weapons with practical launches of ballistic and cruise missiles.
The Russian forces have sprung into action. Moscow launched a nuclear-capable RS-24 Yars missile from the ground. The missile was fired from Russia's northwest. It crossed the entire Russian mainland, and it struck a testing range in Russia's far east. It was a message. It shows that the missile can easily reach the US mainland. Russia also fired the R-29 RMU Sineva nuclear-capable missile from submarines in the Barents Sea. To top it off, Moscow showcased its Tu-95MS strategic missile carriers. So Russia's entire nuclear triad was on display. It was a clear warning to the West. But will Ukraine allies heed this warning? Or will they give in to Zelensky's increasing desperation?
Okay. See where we headed. Anybody got any comments on that? Okay. Okay, well, I said I was going to read out of, for our topic for discussion, I was going to read out of Jasher chapter 2. And once we get to breaking it down, you'll see why I'm reading it. I'm in Jasher chapter 2. I'm going to read chapters 2 and 3. Okay. So, this is Jasher chapter 2, verse 1. And it was in the 130th year of the life of Abraham upon the earth that he again knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore a son in his likeness and in his image. And he said, called his name Seth, saying, because God has appointed me another seed in the place of Abel, for Cain has slain him. Okay. And Seth lived 105 years, and he begot a son, and Seth called the name of his son Enos, saying, because in the time the sons of men began to multiply and to afflict their souls and hearts by transgressing and rebelling against God. And it was in the days of Enos, that the sons of men continued to rebel and transgress against God, to increase the anger of the Lord against the sons of men. So let's look at this verse right quick. I'm thinking everybody got a book of Enoch, right? It says, and it was in the days of Enos. So that's E-N-O-S-H, not E-N-O-C-H. It's Enos, the fourth from Adam, right? And it was in the days of Enos that the sons of men, these giants, right? The giants and the Gentiles, okay? Particularly the Gentiles, I mean the six-day man, right? It says, and in those days, in the days of Enos, that the sons of men continue to rebel and transgress against God. See that? Against God, Yahweh, to increase the anger of the Lord. So they go both of them right there. When you read it right, it says they began to transgress against God and to increase the anger of the Lord against the sons of men. So the Lord is the strong man. Yahweh is the creator. He's the God of heaven, and Michael is a strong man. So let me read it again. And it was in the days of Enos that the sons of men continued to rebel and transgress against God, to increase the anger of the Lord against the sons of men. So let me make it a little more plainer. So what you're dealing with is Yahweh and the Lord of hosts, and then Adam and those men that were called. When it says Adam had a son and called himself, Seth had a son, called him Canaan. Canaan had a son, called him Enos. So the person that's on the earth that's carrying out what's being said by the God, first of all, the angel comes down with what God told him. He brings it to the man on the earth, which is Melchizedek, which is Adam, then his lineage, and then he's the one that spreads the word that the angel brought him, that he got from Yahweh. And that's how this is, all the way to the day. That's the order of things. It says, in the days of Enos. So Enos is the one at this time that's performing the words that the Lord of hosts gave him, that he got from Yahweh. It says, in the days of Enos, that the sons of men continue to rebel and transgress against God. So how are they transgressing? They're not listening to what Enoch's telling them. Enoch is only telling them what the Lord of hosts told him, that Yahweh gave him. And so they rebelling against that. Verse 4, and the sons of men went, and they served other gods. See that? And they forgot the Lord. See? Right? Yahweh ain't coming down. It's the Lord coming down. They forgot the Lord who had created them in the earth. And in those days, the sons of men made images of brass and iron and wood and stone, and they bowed down and served them. Right? 5, and every man made his God. This when all the wood and stone started, right here. When every man made his God, and they bowed down to them, and the sons of men forsook the Lord all the days of Enos and his children. And the anger of the Lord was kindled on account of their works and abominations which they did in the earth. So the Lord is angry because what he gave to Adam's descendants to tell everybody on the earth, they even rebelled against it. So him being the judge, him being the Lord of hosts and the enforcer, he angry because they're not doing what the Creator told him to do. 6, and the Lord caused the waters of the river Gihon, it's the Lord of hosts, caused the waters of the river Gihon to overwhelm them, and he destroyed and consumed them, and he destroyed the third part of the earth. And notwithstanding this, the sons of men did not turn from their evil ways, and their hands were yet extended to do evil in the sight of the Lord. See that? Sight of the Lord. He's the one that's coming down here, not Yahweh. 7, and in those days there was neither sowing nor reaping in the earth, and there was no food for the sons of men, and the famine was very great in those days. And the seed which they sowed in those days in the ground became thorns and thistles. Check this out. Became thorns and thistles and briars. For from the days of Adam was this declaration concerning the earth, and the curse of God, which he cursed the earth on account of the sin which Adam sinned before the Lord. And it was when men continued to rebel and transgress against God and to corrupt their ways that the earth also became corrupt. And Enos lived 90 years, and he begot Canaan. Canaan grew up, and he was 40 years old, and he became wise and had knowledge and skill in all wisdom. And he reigned. See that? back to what I just said, and he reigned over all the sons of men, and he led the sons of men to wisdom and knowledge. For Canaan was a very wise man and had understanding in all wisdom, and with his wisdom he ruled over spirits and demons. So if he's ruling over, he's a king, which is Melchizedek, King Melchizedek. Just like in any other kingdom, when a king died, the next son in line, take over. And that's what we see right here. Adam started out Melchizedek, he died. Seth became Melchizedek, Seth died, and it went on down till time of the flood. It fell on Noah. Noah was Melchizedek. Then after the flood, when Noah passed away, Shem became Melchizedek. That's who Abraham met. So anyway, 12. Canaan knew by his wisdom, just Melchizedek, Canaan knew by his wisdom that God would destroy the sons of men for having sinned upon the earth, right? And that the Lord would in the latter days bring upon them the waters of the flood. And in those days, Canaan wrote. Here you go right here. We talked about this the other day, just the other side of it. It says, in those days, Canaan wrote upon tablets, a stone, what was to take place in the time to come, and he put them in his treasure. So I told you, two Canaans. Then after the flood, there's another Canaan that came up on and saw what he had wrote, but he didn't tell nobody about it. They took that out of the scriptures. Anyway, so 14, Canaan reigned over the whole earth. See that? Canaan reigned over the whole earth. And he turned some of the sons of men to the service of God, right? And when Canaan was 70 years old, he begot 3 sons and 2 daughters. Okay? And we talked about this before too. And these are the names of the children of Canaan. The name of the first born was Mahalalel, the second Enan, the third Merid, and their sisters were Ada and Zillah. These are the 5 children of Canaan that were born to him, right? So then 17, and Lamech, the son of Methuselah, this Cain's lineage. It's 2 Lamechs, this is the one from Cain lineage. Lamech, the son of Methuselah, became related. See that? This one is Cain's descendants mingled right here with Adam's descendants right here. And Lamech, the son of Methuselah, became related to Canaan by marriage. And he took his 2 daughters for his wives, and Ada conceived and bore a son to Lamech, and she called his name Jabal, right? So, like I was saying before, we had this conversation. When you look at the kings, you got the Lord of hosts, got a covenant with David. There's gonna always be a son out of his lineage that's gonna be king. Then he got a covenant with Aaron. There's gonna always be a son out of Aaron's lineage that's gonna be the high priest. And then he took the Levites from among the other 12 tribes, the other 11 tribes, and separated them to himself. So these the men that's dealing with these angels. And they the ones with all this knowledge, like I just saw with Canaan. So not Lamech didn't just get any old two women, 2 daughters from Canaan, from Adam's lineage. He got 2 from Canaan lineage. We just read what Canaan. Look, let's go back so you can get this. It says, verse 11. Canaan grew up and he was 40 years old and he became wise and had knowledge and skill and all wisdom. So these 2 girls around Canaan, they ain't like the other girls. They around their daddy was dealing with these angels. And he got all knowledge and all that. So these girls ain't no any old girls that Lamech got. Okay? So anyway, 18. And she again conceived and bore a son, called his name Jubal. And Zillah, her sister, was barren in those days and had no offspring. For those days the sons of men began to transgress against God and to transgress the commandments which he had commanded to Adam. See that? Adam, that's the first Melchizedek, to be fruitful and multiply. So check it out. In those days, the sons of men began to transgress against God. So we're going to see how they transgressed against him. And to transgress the commandment which he had commanded to Adam. See, the commandment was to Adam, be fruitful and multiply in the earth, right? Now, 20. And some sons of men caused their wives to drink a draught that will render them barren, in order that they might retain their figures, and whereby their beautiful appearance might not fade. So, same thing today. You're thinking that that's some little mere coincidence, or the abortion project, what goes on with abortion. You right here, same thing right here. You transgressing the laws that the Lord that was passed down from Yahweh to the Lord of hosts to Adam to be fruitful and multiply. So when you go and have that, when you go and do that, same thing right here. You transgressing these laws. Read it again. It says, for in those days, verse 19, in those days the sons of men began to transgress against God and to transgress the commandments which he had commanded Adam to be fruitful and multiply in the earth. In 20, how did they transgress it? And some of the sons of men caused their wives to drink a draught that will render them barren. That's abortion. In order that they might retain their figures, and whereby their beautiful appearance might not fade. Okay? And when the sons of men caused some of their wives to drink, Zillah drank with them, and the child-bearing women appearance was abominable in the sight of their husbands as widows, while their husbands lived, for to be barren ones only they were attached, the ones that they had caused not to have. So now let's go back. I want to show you something. Since we right here, I'm going in King James. This right here, a doozy. So we're gonna go to Isaiah chapter 3, where the daughters of Zion. Everybody always talking about the daughters of Zion, right? Okay. Look at it. Isaiah chapter 3. Okay, it says, the judgment on the daughters of Zion, right? Remember what I just read. These sons of God, these sons of men made this concoction to cause their women to not have no babies, to miscarry the baby, because they wanted them to keep their figure. Because when they have a baby, they lose their figure. So right here, Genesis chapter 16. Isaiah 3, I'm starting at verse 16. Now, this thing about the daughters of Zion, right? We're going to look at it. I'm going to read it. It's about, 11 verses. Moreover, the Lord said, because the daughters of Zion are haughty, walk with stretched forth necks, wu-chain eyes, walking and mincing as they go, and making a tingling with their feet. Therefore, the Lord will smite with his scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. Right? In that day, the Lord will take away. Let me go back. Because when it hit me, I'll give to you. 30 verse 17. Therefore, the Lord will smite with the scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. So what are you talking about? Noah's wife. That's what you're talking about, secret parts. Japhet went in there and raped it. Ain't but what secret parts they got? Ain't but one secret part they got. So Noah went in there and raped it. Japhet raped it. So let's go, keep going. 18. And Jacob's daughter. What happened to her? With the men of Shechem. Anyway, 18. In that day, the Lord will check it out. This is the Lord of hosts. In that day, the Lord of hosts will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet, and coils, and their round ties like the moon, the chains, the bracelets, and the mufflers, the bonnets, and the ornaments of the legs, and the headbands, tablets, and the earrings, the rings, nose jewels, the apparel, the mantles, the wimples, crisping pins, the glasses, the fine linen, and the hoods, and the veils. And it shall come to pass that, here you go, right here. I read all that to read this. This is going to take us right back to Ada and Zillah. 24. And it shall come to pass that instead of a sweet smell, talking about the private parts, instead of a sweet smell, there shall be stench. And instead of a girdle, a rent, and instead of a well-set hair baldness, and instead of a stomacher, a girding of sackcloth, and a burning of instead of a beauty. So what are you talking about? They didn't have that problem. They had the babies and their figures still stay in place. See? But it was the other nation, the other women, the other nation all that was going on with them when they have babies. It's like woman, because who they weren't losing their figure. Let's come to the transatlantic slave trade. That's why they was raping them on the boats. And then got over in the slave quarters. That's why he all down in the slave quarters. So that's what he's talking about when he said, first of all, he says in 24, it shall come to pass that instead of a sweet smell, like that sweet smell they wasn't having all that, there shall be stench, right? You know what I'm talking about. And instead of a girdle, a rent, and instead of a well-set girdle, he's talking about their waistline. They have babies, but they keep their figure. So all that was lost. You know, every time I hear the song, this lady wrote, I can't think of her name. It'll come to me, but she says she lost everything when they turned it back on Yah. She lost everything. Yeah, so that's a lot of people don't understand the magnitude of that when she said that. But yeah, so they have babies, but they didn't have that. That's why he was telling them don't intermingle with them, because all them characteristics they got, you're gonna start getting them. But right now, you don't have that problem. You know, you have a baby, your figure, you still got your figure, you still looking good. So that's what that is. Anyway, so we'll keep going. I'm back over here in Jasher. Excuse me. Let me get it. Jasher chapter 2. I'm in verse 23. And in the end of the days, of days and years, when Zillah became old, the Lord opened her womb. See that right there? That's another example of what I'm talking about. Probably ain't never seen it, but now it's right there. So what did he do with Sarah? Sarah was 9 years old, but she had a baby. So come on, you got to go back and let that register. She wasn't looking like a piece of, like these women look. She still had everything. Everything was where it's supposed to be at. Everything was good. Right, same right here. And Zillah been drinking this draft. And then 23 says, and in the days and years when Zillah became old, the Lord opened her womb. She's still good. Everything is still there. Good. 24. And she conceived and bore a son in her old age. Same thing with Abraham's wife, Sarah. And she conceived and bore a son, called his name Tubal-Cain, saying, after I had withered away, I have obtained him from the Almighty God. And she conceived again and bore a daughter, and she called her name Naamah. And she said, after I had withdrawn, see that? Look at this. After I have withered away, have I obtained pleasure and delight. See that? And Lamech was old and advanced in years, and his eyes were dim that he could not see. And Tubal-Cain his son was leading him. And it was one day that Lamech went into the field, and Tubal-Cain and his son was with him. And while they were walking in the field, Cain, the son of Adam, advanced toward them, for Lamech was very old and he could not see much. And Tubal-Cain his son was very young. And Tubal-Cain told his father to draw his bow, and with the arrows he smote Cain, who was yet far off. And he slew him, and he appeared to them to be an animal. And the arrows entered Cain's body, although he was a distance from them, and he fell to the ground and died. And the Lord requited Cain's evil according to his wickedness, which he had done to his brother Abel, according to the word of the Lord, which he had spoken. And it came to pass when Cain had died, that Lamech and Tubal went to see the animal which they had slain, and they saw, and behold, Cain, their grandfather, was fallen dead upon the ground. And Lamech was very much grieved at having done this, and in clapping his hands together, he struck his son and caused his death. And the wives of Lamech heard what Lamech had done, and they sought to kill him. And the wives of Lamech hated him from that day, because he slew Cain and Tubal-Cain. And the wives of Lamech separated from him and would not hearken to him in those days. And Lamech came to his wives and pressed them to listen to him about this matter. So let's stop right there, shine light on something. So look what we just read in verse 24. Zillah got old, okay, and she had no kids. Remember the drama was going on with Jacob for wives, how they were worrying about having babies, and they, one was having more babies than the other one. Well, she ain't had no babies, right? So 24, she conceived and bore a son and called his name Tubal-Cain. So she loved the hell out of this boy. It's Tubal-Cain. It's the only son she got. Go back to Rebecca and Sarah when she had Isaac. When we read that story about how she tripped out when she thought Isaac was dead. Well, Tubal-Cain died. She was the only kid she had, son she had. And then she got him in her old age. So she pissed off. In verse 33, and the wives of Lamech hated him from that day because he slew Cain and Tubal-Cain, her only son, right? And the wives of Lamech separated from him and would not hearken to him in those days. And Lamech came to his wives, and he pressed them to listen to him about this matter. And he said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, O wives of Lamech, attend to my words. But now you have imagined and said that I slew a man with my wounds and a child with my stripes for their having done no violence. But surely know that I am old and gray-headed, and that my eyes are heavy through age, and I did this thing unknowingly. And the wives of Lamech listened to him in this matter, and they returned to him with the advice of their father Adam. See that? They went to Adam, right? To their father Adam. But they bore no children to him from that time, knowing that God's anger was increasing in those days against the sons of men to destroy them with the waters of the flood for their evil doings. This Cain and his descendants. And Mahalalel, the son of Canaan, lived 65 years, and he begot Jared. And Jared lived 62 years, and he begot Enoch. So that was Jasher chapter 2. Any comments, questions about anything we talked about in this chapter?
No, sir.
Okay. We'll go to chapter 3. Says, Enoch lived 65 years, and he begot Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after having begot Methuselah. And he served the Lord, and he despised evil despised the evil ways of men, right? And the soul of Enoch was wrapped up in the instructions of the Lord, in the knowledge and in the understanding. And he wisely retired from the sons of men, and he separated himself from them for many days. And it was at the expiration of many years while he was serving the Lord and praying before him in the house. Here you go, check this out. This is another witness right here. The Lord of hosts. It says, this is chapter 3 of Jasher, verse 3. And it was at the expiration of many years while he was serving the Lord, right? We're going to see who the Lord is. While he was serving the Lord and praying before him in his house, that the angel of the Lord called him from heaven, to that from heaven, and said, "Here I am." Now here you go. And he said, "Rise." The angel came down. The angel came to Abraham, and then he said, "Rise, go forth from thy house, and from the place where thou didst hide thyself, and appear to the sons of men, in order that thou mayest teach them the way in which they should go, and the Lord and the work which they must do, accomplish to enter into the ways of God." See that? So the Lord told Abraham, angel of the Lord, angel came, told Abraham, come out from this hiding place. Like I know the story they tell you about JC, he was hid, but it's actually coming from right here. Verse 4, he said, "Rise, go from thy house, and from the place where thou do hide." See that? That's where they get this JC from. Hide thyself, and appear to the sons of men, right? In order that thou mayest teach them the way in which they should go. So who taught Enoch? This angel. He told him, go and tell them and teach them the way in which they should go. He ain't talking to Yahweh. It's the Lord of hosts that taught him. And he told, go tell them. Right? So let's look at it. Verse 5. And Enoch rose up according to, look at this, the words of the Lord. That's the angel. See that? Enoch rose up according to the words of the Lord. He talking to the angel. He said the angel came down. In verse 3. The angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, and he said, "Here I am." So he ain't talking to Yahweh. He said, Enoch according to the words of the Lord, and went forth from his house, from his place, from the chamber in which he was concealed. See that? Back to JC. And he went to the sons of men. Look at this. And he went to the sons of men, taught them the ways of the Lord. Not Yahweh. What the angel told him. They called him. Just like the angel is on Mount Horeb. Wasn't Yahweh on Mount Horeb, it was an angel. They talked to Moses. Same thing with Enoch, right here. It says, taught them the ways of the Lord, and at that time assembled the sons of men and acquainted them with the instructions of the Lord. So the angel gave him the instruction. 6, and he ordered it to be proclaimed in all the places where the sons of men dwell, saying, where is the man who wishes to know the ways of the Lord? See that? And good works. Let him come to Enoch. And all the sons of men then assembled to him, for all who desired this thing went to Enoch. Enoch reigned, there you go, Melchizedek. Enoch reigned over the sons of men, according to the word of the Lord. See that? According to the word of the Lord, the angel. And they came and bowed to him, and they heard his words. And the Spirit of God was upon Enoch, and he taught all his men the wisdom of God and his ways. And the sons of men served the Lord all the days of Enoch, and they came to hear his wisdom and all the things of the sons of men, both first and last, together with their look at this, together with their princesses and judges, came to Enoch when they heard his wisdom, and they bowed down to him, and they also required Enoch to reign over them, to which he consented. Right? And they assembled in all 100. See that? They assembled in all 130 kings and princes, and they made Enoch king over them. So what's that? So what is Enoch? They assembled in all 130 kings, 130 kings and princes, and they made Enoch king over them. So what's Enoch? King of kings. It's 130 something kings, and they made him a king over all these kings. So Enoch, king of kings. That's where all this coming from. Okay? And they were all under his power and command. And Enoch taught them wisdom, knowledge, the ways of the Lord, and he made peace among them. They go to peace. King of Shalom, Melchizedek. And they made peace among them, and peace was throughout the earth, during the life of Enoch, Melchizedek. 12. And Enoch reigned over the sons of men 243 years, and he did justice and righteousness with all his people, and he led them in the ways of the Lord. These are the generations of Enoch, Methuselah, Elisha, and Elimelech, 3 sons, and their sisters were Milcah and Naamah. And Methuselah lived 87 years and begot Lamech. And it was in the 50th year of the life of Lamech when Adam died. 930 years old was he in his death. And his 2 sons, which Enoch and Methuselah, his son, buried him with great pomp, as at the burial of kings, in the cave which God had told him. And in that place all the sons of men made a great mourning and weeping over account of Adam. It has therefore become a custom among the sons of men to do this to this day, right? Okay. Adam died because he ate of the tree of life, he and his children after him, as the Lord God had spoken. So what does he talk about? The day that you eat of the tree, same day you're gonna die. So 1 year with the Lord is 1,000 years on earth. That's why he lived 930 years. He didn't make it to a day. So 17, and it was in the year of Adam's death, which was 243rd year of the reign of Enoch. In that time, Enoch resolved to separate himself from the sons of men and to secret himself as at first in order to serve the Lord. And Enoch did so, but he did not entirely secret himself from them, but kept away from the sons of men 3 days, and then went to them for 1 day. And during the 3 days that he was in his chamber, he prayed and praised the Lord his God. And the day on which he went and appeared to his subjects, he taught them the ways of the Lord. And all they asked him about the Lord, he told them. And he did in this manner for many years. And he afterwards concealed himself for 6 days and appeared to his people 1 day in the 7th. And after that, once in a month, then once in a year, until all the kings, princes, and sons of men sought for him and desired again to see the face of Enoch and to hear his words, but they could not, as all the sons of men were greatly afraid of Enoch, and they feared to approach him on account of the godlike awe that was seated upon his countenance. Therefore, no man could look at him, fearing he might be punished and die. And all the kings and princes resolved to assemble the sons of men and to come to Enoch, thinking that they might all speak to him at the time when he should come forth amongst them. And they did so. And the day came when Enoch went forth, and they all assembled and came to him, and Enoch spoke to them the words of the Lord, and he taught them wisdom and knowledge, and they bowed down before him, and they said, "May the king live, may the king live." And then sometime afterwards, when the kings and princes and the sons of men were speaking to Enoch, and Enoch was teaching them the ways of God, behold, an angel of the Lord then came unto Enoch from heaven, and wished to bring him up to heaven to make him reign there over the sons of God, as he had reigned over the sons of men upon the earth. And when at that time Enoch heard this, he went and assembled all the inhabitants of the earth and taught them wisdom and knowledge and gave them divine instructions. And he said to them, I have been required to ascend into heaven, and I therefore do not know the day of my going. And now therefore I will teach you wisdom and knowledge, and I will give you instructions before I leave you, how to act upon the earth, whereby you may live. And he did so. And he taught them wisdom and knowledge, gave them instructions, and he reproved them, and he placed before them statutes and judgments to do upon the earth. And he made peace among them, and he taught them everlasting life, and he dwelt with them some time, teaching them all these things. And at that time, the sons of men were with Enoch, and Enoch was speaking to them, and they lifted up their eyes, and the likeness of a great horse descended from heaven, and the horse paced in the air. And they told Enoch what they had seen. And Enoch said to them, on my account does this horse descend upon the earth. The time is come when I must go from you, and I shall no more be seen by you. And the horse descended at that time and stood before Enoch. And all the sons of men that were with Enoch saw him. And Enoch then again ordered a voice to be proclaimed, saying, where is the man who delighted to know the ways of the Lord his God? Let him come to this day to Enoch before he is taken from us. And all the sons of men assembled and came to Enoch that day, and all the kings of the earth with their princes and their counselors remained with him that day. And Enoch then taught the sons of men wisdom and knowledge, and gave them divine instructions, and he bade them serve the Lord and walk in his ways all the days of their lives. And he continued to make peace among them. And it was after this that he rose up and rode upon the horse, and he went forth, and all the sons of men went after him, about 800,000 men, and they went with him one day's journey. And the second day he said to them, return home to your tents. Why will ye go? Perhaps you may die. And some of them went with him, and those that remained went with him 6 days' journey. Enoch said to them every day, return to your tents, lest you may die. But they were not willing to return, and they went with him. And on the 6th day, some of the men remained and clung to him, and they said to him, we will go with thee to the place where thou goest, as the Lord liveth. Death only shall separate us. And they urged so much to go with him that he ceased speaking to them, and they went after him and would not return. And when the kings returned, they caused a census to be taken in order to know the number of the remaining men that went with Enoch. And it was upon the 7th day that Enoch ascended into heaven. Here you go, in a whirlwind, right? With horses and chariots of fire. And on the 8th day, all the kings that had been with Enoch sent to bring forth the number of men that were with Enoch in that place from which he ascended into heaven. And all those kings went to the place, and they found the earth there filled with snow, and upon the snow were large stones of snow. And one said to the other, come, let us break through the snow and see. And perhaps the men that remained with Enoch are dead. And now under the stones of snow they searched, but could not find him, for he had ascended into heaven. Okay, so that was chapter 3. Any comments on that? Anybody got anything? Anything stick out?
Yes, sir. As we was reading that about Enoch leaving and going, teaching them first to tell them about that he's not going to be there, and he don't know when he's going to leave. It just brought me back to how they copied that scenario or that scene for JC.
Problems are increasing.
told it. Go ahead.
JC that he was going to be leaving, and how they try to make it seem like when he had his supper at the table, they just seemed like it copied those things there. And then
Yeah.
by him going up into this, ascending into heaven, they saying that they saw him go up. That it was just like, again, copied everything, but just, finagle it, moved it around somewhat,
Right.
and had it
Well,
to be like
they just
that.
took it out. They just took it. That's why the book of Enoch is banned. So you won't read. You wouldn't be able to read it and know what Jesus doing, where it came from. So that's why they banned the book. So you won't. So you won't read it. It's the same way in chapter 8 when the star that came across the sky when Abraham was born. So it's the same thing. They got that from there too and put it on JC. And not only that, notice. Let me go back and read some of this and then go look at what JC was doing, right? And he was on the side of these mountains, going to these different places, and said all these crowds was following him. See, this where we got it from right here. Look at this. Let me get it. Chapter 3 says, verse 7. Chapter 3 and verse 7 says, all the sons of men being assembled to him. See that? Same thing with JC. All who desired this thing went to Enoch, and Enoch reigned over the sons of men according to the word of the Lord. And they came and bowed down to him, and they heard his word. And the Spirit of God was upon Enoch, and he taught them all. So he teaching. He going all over the place teaching. That's what they got JC doing. He all over the Galilee teaching. Great large crowds running to him. They got it from right there. Same thing. Yeah.
Shalom, everyone. And when you was reading, it said Enoch was taken up in a whirlwind, right?
Exactly.
And but in the New Testament, it says JC was taken up in a cloud, right? So
Right.
there's 3 different instances where JC supposedly had been taken up, right? Like you said, speaking to the men in Galilee, right? And
Right.
also in the book of Acts, where it speaks of that too. And it says, this is 9, Acts 1 and 9. And when he had spoken these things while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. So again, when you're reading the New Testament, they have JC doing a little bit of everything when it comes to the different men in the Old Testament. So he was doing whatever Moses was doing, he was doing whatever David was doing. He's the Lord of hosts. Now they got him as Enoch. So every time you read a story out of the Old Testament, we can apply that to one person, JC.
Right. And you're never gonna. There's no way under the sun you're gonna ever be able to connect them dots if you never come in contact with these books. You'll be thrown. So what you were just saying, he was taken up in Matthew, right, or Luke or whatever.
Acts, sir.
He was in Acts. He was taken up with 2 men, right? 2 men was in the sky waiting on him, right? That's
yes, sir.
Okay, so now go back to Ezekiel. What Ezekiel saw? Cloud enfolding itself, and then 4 beings, 4 angels in the cloud with him. Right?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Okay,
yes.
so
yes, sir.
they go into the same cloud. 2 of them came to get him.
Right.
But where did they come from? 2 of them came to Enoch. If you remember the story from reading, 2 angels came to Enoch's house. Remember that?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay, we'll find it. Bring it up next time. But 2 came to his house.
Okay.
Enoch was on his couch. 2 angels came to his house and got him and took him up. And everybody stood there and watched him go out of sight. And he ascended up to a cloud. What cloud? The same cloud. Two of the angels that came down to get Enoch. Yeah. All that's coming out of, that's why, like I say, that's why they done denigrated all those books, because they don't want you can't read them because you're going to see what they done. Like I said, he teaching because Enoch was teaching. Enoch is Melchizedek. That's why he teaching. Enoch going all over the place teaching. The Lord of hosts came and taught him and told him, go teach him. So that's now he come. His father sent him. He teaching all over Jerusalem. Come on. That's why he doing that. You never would figure that out if you didn't read the book of Enoch. You would go along with that. But once you get the whole story, you see where it came from.
Right. It's not, like you said, it's not exactly like that, but they're taking it and like plagiarizing off of that story. Because as I'm reading further into Acts, it does say that in verse 10, and while they looked steadfast towards heaven as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel. Yes, sir.
They saying that because two men came at Enoch. That's why they saying two men, because they got it's all come from they just put JC in the story, but it's all coming from the book of Enoch, and that's why they in there, because you'll see it. Like the Son of Man. Who the Son of Man? Enoch, the Son of Man.
Enoch, yes.
Yeah. It's like I said, you could have taught a baboon to do what they done, and you got the whole nation of Israel arguing back and forth over this clown. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. That's the main thing that's keeping us separated right now. We waking up, but they got these Negroes jumping out or riding on JC. Okay. Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Say shalom. We got our reading through the Tanakh tomorrow night, same time, 7 to 9. Shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.